glad to be on board again, and hi to everyone. Accept greetings from Congo, default greetings. They still have their problems. Nigeria has just lapsed into some kind of coma, I would say. No news of anything going on there, and well, I think that things will take shape at their own time. Okay, so today I'm going to make certain observations. I crave your indulgence to be patient and listen to some of my thoughts, some of my analysis before I ask some questions. Yeah, and my first observation is that affiliation with the new presentation opens one to new vistas of reasoning, and this is born of new perceptions. And I've realized that one word that triggered a cascade of thoughts running through me this afternoon is real value, which Duane often talks about and often uses. My understanding, and here anyone is free to differ, is that the real value of anything to the new student must be within the ambit of the is, the true sound light reality, and the real guides, the real universes of the all is, and also one's focus and one's true purpose. And all this would show how it helps one to recognize one's own real awareness, which is the real you. And I also conclude that anything outside of these parameters will only have a temporary value, though many people out there in the world will think that is the ultimate. So with this realization, I looked closely at the words that Duane often uses, like real education, real freedom, real knowledge, real food, being real. So it dawned on me that some of the things that we do, the agreements that we enter into, the knowledge or wisdom that we pursue, have no real value when one's true purpose in the context of the is and the real universes is considered. So with real value in mind, we recognize the futility of listening to what Duane calls ancient wisdom. We also realize the uselessness of certain relationships, be they filial or family and romantic relationships, or casual relationships, or even getting into a religion, living according to a certain cultural norm or tradition. And then you even realize that even science and technology, in some cases, has no real value. And I also conclude that these are all thrills which lead one to dead ends when pitted against the real value of being real and doing something real. So I had these thoughts this afternoon after having lunch with friends. I was going home. I just started thinking. I realized that there wasn't any real value in spending my time, wasting time uh, and that if there was any value, it was in realizing what is of real value as against what just amounts to some emotional pleasure from socializing. So can Duane tell us something more about the value of what is real value in the context of the new presentation?
Okay, Charles, this is always fun. And again, it's always choice. It's very simple. Not setting up any ideas that look like a doctrine or indoctrination or any of these things with what I'm sharing. That's not the idea. I will, listening to you, because again, the literal mind is very, very limited, and it's understandable because of where we're at on the earth, accordingly. And so every day I look at the world, every moment, and we are, of course, in the doing business as usual mode. Okay, so it's not about really recognizing and paying attention to the all-natural environment. Yes, there are people that do that, but the business world pushes on, doesn't it? So, yeah, what has real value? And yes, all of us do things in our personal life. There's, again, nothing is negated. I'll say this many, many times. Nothing is negated. Do whatever you want. It's your choice. Okay, it's just that just because you create an idea, the reality of that idea many times is just with yourself, and that's as far as it goes. And you will just be with yourself and not see the true reality life is. Now, as I look at what I experience through the view that I have and decide, I see what's going on of a particular, and I see, what others are deciding also, and I listen to what they're saying, which is fine. It's their choice. And I'm limited here too. If I had a car, I'd probably be driving it with gasoline until I could figure out how to run it on water or something else, air, what have you. They have cars that run on compressors, which is compressed air, like pneumatic tools. So there's different ways to do it, or solar or wind power, whatever. So just as an example. But because we have this literal side, which is part of our learning curve, but at what point do we decide to get out of our old routines? And so this is really what it is. So, we've come through all these things, and yes, we do these things, but they eventually it's suggested that, you start a new position that makes more sense instead of just looking at the world and seeing what the world is doing and then easily going along with that. Again, it's choice. It's choice. So myself, personally, I like indifference. In other words, indifferent to things that I see that don't make sense. I like to use the idea of making sense and don't making sense. And so as opposed to the old idea of what is truth, what is a lie, and all these things. Again, the truth idea is personal, and the lie idea, I don't really use that. I would say I've never used that in my writings because it's a little abrasive and it's not really necessary. People are knuckleheads, that's for sure, but when it gets into a lie, that's a different story. So, yes, what has real value? Well, to me, again, it's I see the is, and I see that through my experience here, that all that matters to me is I creatively do whatever I do here. All right, and Kelsey and Val are here, and we're usually giggling, and we do what we do while we're doing it. But at the same time, my focus is supporting the is, realistically supporting it, and seeing the is, supporting it, and this part of me that does this creative part here, this is secondary to the reality of my intent. So people can do things and make a show of things here, which is fine, it's choice. But at the same time, I've seen them to where their intent is not really with it. So until you have that intent there, life cannot support you. It can only support you according to how you allow it and you stand real with it. So it's like a mother with her children. You know, the mother knows her intent, and the children too. She recognizes this. They recognize this from what she's doing. And so real value pivots off of here it is all of a sudden in your awareness that here is this true reality that life is and that you've been looking for all these lifetimes. And I watch people and how they take it so for granted. It's like it's nothing. But yet the world that they live in is really something, is it? It's a created place. That's all it is. Creation has its position, but without this true reality and real value, it's just creation. And you're just in a cyberspace mode. It's a virtual reality that will always have effect to it, that you have to deal with it. And to where with this true reality, you don't have that. It's amazing how it is. And to the personal mind, again, this is a toughie because it sees the variables, the personal mind does, where it cannot see the whole. This becomes the difference. And so the old saying is all life is one, but that really doesn't define it. Really doesn't define it at all. So yes, in this world, we're going to do what we're going to do, and what has real value? Well, what we're referring to here in creating, like I'm creating the words and talking and whatever, this is a secondary value. It's not the prime value, and this is where when you're looking at the world, you might say, is not honest with itself, because again, the world is deciding that, you know, what we've discovered, or the business world, or we have a great business, or, you know, this is religion, politics, spiritual, technology, whatever. It's the ultimate. You know, we have it, we have the connection, we have whatever. Okay, decided. And again, it's choice, and respectfully, everybody gets to have that choice. Fine, but that's not it. And so very few people will really see it. And guess what? Life, you might say, because of how it is, does not stand still. And so here's the corporation again that we've been through, many of us, and they're thinking that life stands still for them. They're thinking that, oh, you know, everything's fine, and it's always what it is, and, you know, life is what it is, etc. Well, guess what? It's not, because without, it's like they're putting life down, saying that we'll decide what life is. Okay, this is the world. We'll decide what life is. So life is politics, religion, business, whatever. We'll decide what life is, and we're not going to listen to what life is telling us what it is. You see, this is what's going on. So how do you find this value? How do you recognize this? And so there are steps, like anything, just like in the business world, just like in anything that you've learned, just like in education and schooling and whatever. There are steps to learn to recognize and to how to put all this together so that it makes sense with, you know, what supports us. And so the natural environment that we're referring to, especially on the earth, which is being destroyed, and most people aren't paying attention because business comes first instead of what supports them. And, you know, again, here, I'm just talking. These are just words. And I'm always moving forward towards something. But life itself, again, doesn't stand still. You know, people can have great ideas and whatever. It doesn't mean life backs them. Those ideas are their own. Even the people out there that are picking up the trash on the beach and whatever. Doesn't mean life backs them or anybody backs them. Fine, you're doing whatever. And so what's your purpose? What's your real purpose? Do you have a real purpose? If you don't have that, what do you have? So I'm just kind of throwing things around here from what you said, Charles. And so Yes, and you talked about relationships and things like this. Yes, it's not about having or not having any of these things. Each person decides. So, as what is being shared here in the Skypes, and what I'm deciding with the backing of the boys and the is itself, is it moves along its own particular that has to be recognized. And so those with the intent to recognize it and take the risk to do more than just agree with their old routines and their so-called secure jobs and all these things. You at any time can decide to be creative and gradually move into a new position that better represents who you are realistically, because you're more than just a person here. This is just a created body, and this is all this is. It's just a created body. That's what you created it. It's just a created body. That's it. But in this world, this is the focus point. The personal self becomes the most important, and it should, of course, like your car and whatever. But it's not really, because when you can really learn to recognize and see and intently and truly support the all is, you will really see the difference. But that's a lot for people, and it's also scary. Here's this reality that will support you continuously, like the air you breathe, without question. You never have to question the air. You never have to question any of these things. But you might say it's a leap of faith, and don't quote me on that, please, because it's a little bit silly. But so people have faith and belief in something, all right? And so here's the true reality. So it's not even about that. It's not even about trust. I don't even use that idea. I look at it, and it's like the old saying, well, trust me, or trust it. And that's been used, and I don't see that. I see that kind of as a personal idea that the personal self uses almost in a way that it hopes it'll be okay. You see? So I don't really dig these things. And so for myself, others can use them, fine, have fun. But I see it as the isness that it is. And again, always grateful every moment that I know this, that the is. And that comes first with me, always. And the real value of anything is the isness life is. It's just, I'm in awe of what it is. And what's so cool about it, like I've said, is that it's unending. I can never pinpoint it. All I can do is create the best references here in this one-dimensional literal world, the best that I can. And I look at it sometimes and it sounds good, but it's not it at all. And it's really in the activity of this reality. It's really in the activity and the demonstration. It's like when you're at the beach or on a forest or in the mountains or and see the sky and the sun shining, whatever. There's a demonstration of the reality of it. And seeing the animals and whatever, there's a demonstration of it in this sense that as we go through this process, we experience something of it, you see? And so, but still, that's not it. This is a misconstruction that has been, again, marketed in so many different ways, like everything is. Whatever the five bodies are experiencing, these things are marketed, and for the most part, for control is what they are. The love ideas, sensations, your appetite, your mental state, education, all that. It's just marketed for control. And so this is where we're presenting something. I've got to go a step at a time, simply because I can only do so much here, okay? And the world itself can only accept so much, if it accepts anything at all. But it has to get past its own literal part. That's the biggie. That's the toughie. Oh, yeah, everybody's got a lot of collected knowledge, okay, like the computers, and they can say this and that and whatever. And so when I'm speaking or writing, again, I pivot off this reality because just talking about something is just that. You're just talking about something. And especially today, you can get this information anywhere. So yet people still pay for it. What do they pay Tony Robbins for, or other people? You know, thousands of dollars to go to a seminar for what? To listen to words? That's all it is. And what does all that equal? Really nothing. You can figure it out yourself. You can see the business world. You can go online, whatever, but they charge for these things. And really, what are they doing? David Icke and what he's presenting, and all these people. I'm not picking on them. Anybody, the president up there talking, or Congress, or just anybody, movie stars. That's a good one. They just bring out all kinds of stuff. They're selling the public. They're selling them words. That's all they're doing. That equal really nothing. And so then there's more words. And so to get agreement here to try and demonstrate something that makes sense, that's a whole lot, something that has a real value. And so, again, I've decided the real universal position, and I would say that most people do not understand this, and there will be probably very few that will. But I'm taking the risk to see how this comes out. And in the meantime, I'm doing a lot of other interesting things too that just kind of keeps me busy here, because it's good to keep the personal self busy and focused. But each person decides what they're going to do. So if you got to go do your barbecue, have fun. You know? And so Kelsey and Val are very busy here usually, and Val's working. He'll be back today, and he's supporting what we're doing here. And we're very involved. And Kelsey's lining up, interviews, etc. As people come on, I try to get them to start a Skype, start something real that relates to what's going on. Just use what I've written, work off of that until you've found your creative place, etc. But let's stay along the lines of what's going on here, because it does entail everything. Just be a little patient. It will expose itself. Okay, this is where the personal mind becomes a little overactive. In other words, yeah, there are little, you might say, disciplines that are needed, and I have them for myself to focus on this because I see that it makes sense. And so most people's attention are all over the place, thinking that, oh, they just got to zoom here, zoom there, and zoom there, whatever. They're chasing the phenomena of this world, and that's all they're chasing. And so when it comes to really focusing on the nowness, right now, this moment, and recognizing what this reality is, that's huge. And so for the most part, they won't do it. And that's a choice. That's all it is. This is what's so cool about what we're doing and what I've figured out for everybody. And that is that it's not about the guilt trips and the sin and all these things that the marketing ploysters put on people. It's like, well, if you don't follow us, then it's this or that or whatever. And, we just do the best we can, but we're not going to baby people. I don't baby people along to where, hey, you made your choice, just go pray to your God. It's your choice. Hey, I'm not going to talk them out of it. I tell people that sometimes, go pray to your God, because they're going to do that anyhow. And sometimes it's a joke, even if they're not religious. I say go do it because they're praying to the plastic gods that make plastic and plastic bags and whatever else in this world. And of course we all use them, but that doesn't come first. So real value, again, take the time to recognize the is and in the nowness that it is, because it's everything compared to creation. And again, real fast, that look at the different systems of the world. They've all mashed everything into this physical experience. It has to be taken apart, moment by moment, piece by piece, to see what's going on. But again, most people don't have the time because they're chasing their phenomena. And again, phenomena has its value. It all does. But to properly see it and make sense of it, and at the same time, like I said, it's business as usual. That comes first. So the natural environment being destroyed on a daily basis, well, it's like whatever. But once it's gone, then people are really going to be concerned. And it's coming up if there aren't those that step up for what's taking place. So the real value here is waking up with the isness and stepping forward and really doing something, letting people know about the new you or whatever, because again, this is a start for what we're doing, etc. So again, yeah, go ahead, Charles. Yes, thank you. So we kind of covered this. Everything is fine. Nothing is negated. And so in the literal terms, yes, we use the literal side, but just let it kind of be what it is. And what we're presenting here is not that. That's just a reference we use. The literal side is just a reference. So when people take the words as they do, which I've written in this way or in that way, it's because they're using their own literal interpretation, and they lack real experience to have a real comparison. This becomes the difference.